I've been prompted to talk about a trend within my industry, and the holistic vocal practitioner workflow for me is creative practice, facilitation, and research. But I wanted to pull on that creative practice strand because my background is as a performer, and because I'm immersed in more than one genre, it's given me the opportunity to see a variety of different performance spaces. I have a background with folk, oral tradition, and I have undertaken classical training in voice and instruments as well. And in my songwriting and live performance space, I really like to play with improvisation, and I'm informed by lots of different genres, and I've also done specialist training in different vocal styles as well. So, as I say, it's given me an insight and an immersion into different spaces, and I wanted to focus on the popular music performance space and talk about it in relation to vocal health, because there is a normalisation around performance environment which doesn't actually adequately support vocal health, and this is a challenge, and it is something that I have personally come up against. And there is more conversation happening within this industry space, which is a good thing, absolutely. And my call is just for it to be more present, actually, and for those conversations to be more transparent and more explicit, and also include more people. So I use the example of a bass player. So we know that they have an offload time, they take all their kit out the van, they need to store their case somewhere. We know that they need a bass amp. Maybe they're using in-ear monitors. We know that they need to tune up, and we know that they need to have a sound check and make sure everything is working. So if we're not musicians ourselves, or if we are in other supporting roles in that environment, maybe you're a runner, maybe you are a venue rep, maybe you are a promoter, we've had to learn this information through observing this individual's practice, and it's through that observation that we then gain insight, which leads to conversations around what do you need, how can we support you. So a lot of these things are put into place when we establish packages and riders, and we are in conversation at that early stage before we are actually physically in a performance space. But it is very, very common to find that there is actually not a good space for you to warm up in as a vocalist. There might not be a green room. There might not even be a little quiet corner somewhere. Often when we're approaching that sound check period prior to gig time, there's a chaos in this environment, and there's lots of things happening. That environment might be very noisy, highly charged, and for you to even step into a warm-up practice, which is asking you to kind of invite your voice into building and actually stretching and working on your stamina to build up to fully performative level quality of energy, we're kind of at a disadvantage point from the get-go if we're already in a distracting environment where we would be having to push our volume levels even just to get that little bit of feedback. So it's very common to be resorting to bathroom warm-ups. It's something that I've done myself. But I feel like we could do better, and I feel like the conversations that happen around what is actually needed to support singers in particular could be improved. And a lot of times it's an awareness thing. So we might have that understanding between bandmates. Hopefully we do, because it really improves communication and collaboration when we can cross-fertilize information and be aware as creative practitioners what each other's practice looks like. But then also for those that are in those supporting roles as well, they're in a very niche focus and they have lots of demand and pressure on them. So they might not have that insight or awareness into what do I as a singer actually require in order for me to show up in the best possible way to deliver, and also to ensure that I am respecting and caring for my instrument and not leaving that performance space actually feeling burnt out and potentially having put myself at risk of vocal injury because the environment has not been supportive to facilitate that preparation space. So everyone's preparation looks a little bit different, and I bring in that 5 elements perspective from the holistic voice work in my own approach. So it's not limited just to physical and vocal warm-ups. There's also that element of preparation, which is about emotional and spiritual grounding, and then that way of finding internal resource to actually bring a quality of energy to the social relational part of performing and sharing to an audience and with an audience and engaging in that. So there are many different facets on an individual level to how we prepare ourselves to get performance ready. But I want to give another example of festival spaces and highlight that vulnerability from a vocal health point of view for, young, maybe more inexperienced performers, up and coming performers. It is a kind of standard model at the moment to have showcase stages and kind of application processes which are on an exchange basis of, we'll give you a slot, we'll give you a festival ticket for the weekend in exchange. So having done that myself and knowing the disadvantage that you're at in regards to your capacity for really tapping into and maintaining your health and well-being over the course of a number of days, should you choose to arrive on site, say Friday, even Thursday, and your performance slot has not been given until the Sunday afternoon, that means you've got multiple days to negotiate. You might be out in the elements, the weather might be rubbish, you might be staying in a tent. So there are all of these ingredients that get thrown into the pot before you are even getting to that hour or so before your performance, where you're starting to think about, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to prepare? And there maybe just isn't a space for you to go that is safe, warm and dry, with access to hot water and just these kind of simple but essential things that actually help us as vocalists, bring ourselves online and actually have that capacity to perform. So my take on this would be, for this conversation around vocal health and what is needed and the practicalities around that, just to be a much more open, transparent conversation to demystify it and to empower performers and those that are supporting performers with the right knowledge.